Hello and welcome to Bleeding Tree Gaming. My name's Amy, aka Warpfiend, and I'm back with another painting tutorial. Now, I've been ill for quite a while with bad back, and it's been preventing me from painting as much as I'd like, so I apologise if this video is a little less polished than some of my recent ones. I'm just going to play some footage of painting and talk over it and try and give you some tips and stuff, just because I really wanted to get a video out there. And I just want to talk about some different ways to paint non-metallic metals, swords and blades and stuff like that. I'm going to start showing you on my deepkin that I'm currently working on. So I've just based the whole sword in Dark Jade by Pro Acryl, and that's going to be my base colour. Now the first thing to do when sketching out light on any swords is to get in the light itself. So I start with the brightest colour, and that's this white blue. Now what I'm going for is kind of a greeny blue tinge non-metallic metal here, and the white blue is perfect for that. I find doing it with a bit of colour rather than just using blacks and greys can add loads more interest, especially when it's stuff like swords, where you really want it to be a focal point. Next I take some black and I'm going to go all the areas in between those lights that I just sketched in and just darken them down. Then I take the underside of the blade and I put dark areas in all the areas that are catching light on the top part. I'm just creating a really basic kind of comic book style sword, and I think comic books and illustrations are a really good place to look for inspiration when doing swords. Now I know where the light is roughly going to be, I'm going to go back to my mid-tones and I take some emerald, which is my main one from Vallejo, and I'm just going to glaze that onto some of the boundaries and just try and, you know, bridge those colour gaps a little bit more. I'm also going to use a second mid-tone in this to introduce a little bit of colour variety, and I've gone for a blue-green, which is a very similar light value to the emerald, but just slightly more on the blue side than the green side. And I'm just applying this to the end. I'm hoping to create just a little bit of colour variation, so it's not just going between the same colours, as kind of natural reflections from the water would catch on the blade. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of blending. I'm going to take that dark jade and just glaze it lightly over the black parts, and then I'm going to take my mid-tone and mix that with the white blue to create a highlight colour that will help bridge the gap between the white and the mid-tone a little more. Now I'm doing this very quickly as it's for an army project that I want to give a little bit of an extra sparkle to. You can go as far in as you want, just making those blends super perfect, but I find just suggesting them being there and having that extra bit of colour interest will often do the job. So for the underside, I want to again add a little bit more colour interest to it, so I'm going to use some dark flesh, some scrag brown and some good old sunny skin tone. I'm just going to do the same things with the light patches underneath. Instead of doing them in the blue-white, I'm just going to start with the darkest colour and highlight up. And again, this is just to add more colour interest. You've got things going on, there's like orange sand on the base, so you want to get in some reflections of that. And it's not precise, you're not doing a mirror here where you're doing full reflections of absolutely everything, but you're just getting in some of those colours that you've used elsewhere on the piece. And you can see now I've got a much more interesting blade than your standard NMM. So the next thing to do is to just edge highlight it. And I'm not using the full white blue for the first pass, I'm actually mixing some of that emerald into it, because you want to have a lighter colour to highlight up to. Keep using the side of your brush and control the amount of paint on it. It's really easy to get the two side parts. Now the middle part is a bit more difficult, and I am personally suffering from shaky hands, and the way I'm having to sit to comfortably paint at the minute is not really conducive. So I made a lot of mistakes, and this isn't a clear one where you can easily use the edge of your brush for. You really have to do a bit of that pulling it towards you. But what you can do, and what I did off camera, is just tidy up all the mistakes you made afterwards. Go back to your original colours and bring them all back to that centre line to kind of tidy up your centre edge highlight. Last thing to do is to just do the gold, and I've based that again, it's in the dark jade. This time I'm just mixing in some yellow green, and I highlight up to pure yellow green, and then I add some of the white blue into the yellow green for a final highlight. So here's our rapier. Now you can see that just from those few little colour tricks that I did there, it's added so much more interest into it, and this is really something that's going to draw your eye to it on the battlefield. So if you've been trying non-metallic metal on swords and finding it looks a little bit plain, maybe you've kind of experimented with that and want to take it a step further, I think this is a great little method to use. Now I want to show you just quickly some of the same principles used on a different kind of blade, because a rapier is very easy, you've got two sides, but these more complicated ones, I just want to show you now the same thing applied to a different kind of blade, because a rapier is obviously it's got two edges. It's fairly simple. On these more complicated curved ones, you can see I started my highlight from the facet of the blade that was going to catch the most light, and then I started building up like dark and light contrasts around it. The edge highlight really sells this. This is just on a basic troop, so I don't want to spend a million years doing every one of these blades. But once you get into the practice of it, knocking out these things will take you no time at all, really. You can see I'm just adding on some little tiny dots there to just help sell the effect of light reflecting without spending a million years. It's just one of those little finishing touches that can add so much more interest into a tabletop piece. It can cover a multitude of sins, especially if you've got shaky hands like I have. Stay tuned to the channel, by the way, because coming up in the next couple of weeks, Autumn Witch has a video on how to paint with shaky hands, back problems, all that kind of stuff, so keep an eye out. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, this is just a quick one. I'm still struggling with health problems, but hopefully I'll be able to put out more videos soon. Please, it'd really help us out if you could subscribe to Bleeding Tree Gaming on YouTube, and like this video if you liked it, drop a comment below, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!